Welcome, hi everyone. Welcome to step 5, the telephone process. And I'm going to go through a training now, which hopefully will explain, if you're new to this process, exactly what you need to do and how you can be in control of this process and confidently go through step 5, which is talking to people on the telephone. And it's really, really simple. And we have a 5-step structure, really 5-point structure, which will enable you to approach this with total confidence and be very relaxed and actually hopefully have some fun while you're doing it. That's a big tip, actually, is to try to enjoy the process. And you don't need any special skills to do this. You just need to follow the structure that we've put in place. And if you have it, just in case you have any preconceived ideas about how we approach this, you don't need to have the gift of the gab or anything like that. If you're fairly quiet and you're maybe a bit shy, that's perfect. Actually, that gives you a head start, because the main skill associated with step 5 with this process is asking questions and listening. So you really need to be a good listener to do this process effectively, but you certainly don't need any unique skills, and we will teach you in this training exactly how to do how to undergo that process. Now, I'm just going to get the screen up. Here we go. And so this is step 5, the telephone process, and we call that a personal verbal communication. And the verbal communication is important because it makes a big difference to people's perceptions of the business. But it's important to understand that it's a sorting process, not a convincing process. So we're not looking for salespeople particularly to sell the business or to persuade people or to baffle people with science or anything like that. All we're looking for people to do is to follow a structured process of sorting through all the various people that inquire about our business. And the way that we do that is we just follow some basic principles and a basic structure. But here's 5 key principles which you will learn to develop during the course of the next few weeks and months. First of all, you need to be confident. You need to be in control. You need to be able to relate to the person that you're speaking to. You need to have an agenda and then some direction in the call, and you need to be able to finalize the next step. And you might think, am I really going to be able to do all of that? And from my first call, and my answer to that is yes, you do need to be able to do that, and you will be able to do that when you see what I'm going to show you. But the thing that we find people have difficulties with is the first one, and it's a confidence thing. And the reason why people tend to struggle with that is because if you've never done anything like this before, you may feel it's a bit daunting to speak to strangers or people you've never met on the telephone about a business opportunity. But the best way I can explain the process is to ask you, if you've learned to drive a car, to imagine you're going through that process again and try to remember how you were on your very first driving lesson, and ask yourself, how high was your confidence when you first got behind the wheel? Can you remember when you first got behind the wheel and you had to become familiar with all the different controls and the different instructions and all the things you had to think about putting it into gear and checking your blind spot and all those different things that you had to think about? And usually what happens at that point is you drive the car and you sort of bump along down the road in fits and starts until you become familiar with it. But the process of building a clean, easy business and speaking to people on the telephone is very, very similar. So most people don't start out confident, but you've got to learn to drive your clean, easy vehicle. And in reality, it's quite simple, but the confidence comes to you as you become competent at the process. And the way that we help people become competent is we give them a clear set of instructions and we show them the most effective way to do it, just like your driving instructor showed you when you learn to drive. Now, if you haven't learned to drive yet, just take it on trust. You will be able to do this if you listen to the disc, watch the videos, and watch your sponsor go through the same process. But it's a process of confidence building, and the confidence comes from doing it. The only way you can get confident is by actually getting behind the wheel and getting on the phone. Okay, so here's the structure. This is how we give people confidence. And if you understand this structure and apply this structure, you will always be in control of every single phone call, and you will always have the ability to steer any conversation in the direction that you want it to go in. So this structure does not change. It's used on every single call. The first part of the structure is opening the call. And I'm going to go through this structure in point by point in more detail. But opening the call is really just introducing yourself. The second part of the call is to set an agenda. And I'm going to go explain what that means. But basically, it means stating the reason for the call and gaining permission to proceed. Third part of the structure is the most important part, which is asking questions. And as I said earlier, the main skill in this step 5 is being a good listener. So if you are fairly quiet and you're not that outgoing, all you have to do is ask questions and listen. That's the main skill, is listening. So if you're a good listener, that's absolutely perfect. And we have an expression in the business, which is that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and it's best to use them in that proportion. But I'll come back to that when I get into the detail of that part of the structure. Point number 4 is to present information, and that is where we explain in a bite-sized soundbite a little bit about the business, and it lasts no more than like a few seconds, and we'll show you how you can outline what the business is about very simply and very easily to people who are interested in finding out more information. And then the final part of the structure is always to gain commitment and to close the call. And that's basically the 5-point structure to step 5. Interestingly enough, that structure also applies to just about every call in all of the 10 steps, including coaching calls, showing the business, getting started. It actually follows in quite a few of the steps. And to go into a little bit more detail, a good point here to make is that you're also given a script as well as the structure. So you really can't go wrong. All we do is we break the script down into those 5 areas so that you can see how it's used effectively. But the first part of the structure is to open the call. And here's an example of opening a call. Hi, Mary, my name is Neil Young. You responded to an advert about working from home today, and you left your details on our website. Do you remember? And that's it. That's opening the call. It's that simple. So it's just introducing yourself. And then the second part of the structure, as soon as they've acknowledged who you are, is to set an agenda. Now, this is really important, and I need to explain at this point why we set an agenda. And this is the little trick we use to make sure that we are in control of the call. And it's very polite, it's very low pressure, it's very relaxed, but it puts you firmly in control of the call. And all we do is we say, the reason for the call, Mary, is to give you more detailed information. I just need to ask you a couple of questions. Is that okay? Now, they will then agree to give you to let you ask your questions. Now, the reason for that is that they've responded to advertising, so they've asked for the information anyway. So all we have to say is the reason for the call, Mary, is to give you more detailed information. I just need to ask you a couple of questions. Is that okay? And they will then agree to let you let you ask your questions. Now, what that does is you are now in control of the call, because you're now going to ask Mary a series of questions which will identify what Mary's looking for and what stage of the process she's at. So I'll go on to that next. But setting an agenda states the reason for the call and gains permission to proceed by asking questions, and it puts you in control. And it's vitally important that you use that step. And I use those words on every single call. I've been doing it for 15 years, and I've never had anybody declined to let me ask the questions. Now, next thing is to actually ask the questions. And you might think, why do we need to ask questions? And the reason we need to ask questions is simply that, first of all, we need to find out more about the person who's made the inquiry, who has responded to the advert. We need to build up a bit of a profile about that person, what their circumstances are. But crucially, psychologically, we need to get the person to open up to us, to tell us what it is, what motivated them to respond to the advert. And if we do that, they will literally give you the reason why they're going to join your business before they've even looked at the video, before they even know what it is. So here, I'll give you an example of what sort of questions we would ask. So the first question that I usually ask when I'm speaking to a complete stranger, I say, what's your current situation, Mary? What do you do at the moment? And the reason why I use that question first is because it's a very open question. They can't answer yes or no. They have to give you some kind of explanation, which means you're going to start to have a conversation. And this is all this process involves, really, is having a good conversation and developing rapport with the person who's inquiring. So if I ask someone what their current situation is, what do they do at the moment, they're then going to explain to me about their personal circumstances, their work situation. And of course, you will now get a multitude of different responses. It could be they've just been made redundant. It could be their children are about to go to school and they've got more time and they're looking to get some extra income. It could be they're in a dead-end job that they absolutely hate, or they've got, you know, a bully of a boss and they want to get out of it. It could be all kinds of things, but we need to identify what their current situation is, and was there anything in particular that made them respond to the advert? Because it could be they're just looking for an extra $300-400 a month to save up for a holiday or to finance a car or whatever it may be, but it could be more pressing than that. It could be bigger than that. It could be they want an alternative career. So we need to find out what has prompted them to fill the form in on the website and leave their details, having looked at our advertising. And we do that by asking open questions like what, how, when, why, what sort of extra income are you looking for? There's a good question. Or if someone were, let's say someone's been made redundant, you might ask a question like, what sort of income are you used to? So if they're a middle manager and they're used to earning 30,000 a year and they're looking for 30,000 a year, that helps us find out what their problems are, and that helps us solve their problems. And this whole process is a problem-solving process. So what sort of extra income are you looking for? And then you can say at that point, we emailed you a 15-minute video, because the video gets emailed out automatically in our system, as we covered in step 4. And you can say, have you had the chance to have a look at that video yet? Now, after you've had that initial conversation with them, they will, one of two things is then going to happen. They will say, yes, they've watched the video, or no, they haven't had a chance to watch the video. And just to show you what we do in both of those outcomes, if they have not yet watched the video, that's absolutely fine, not a problem at all. We say, okay, that's fine. How soon can you watch the video? That's pretty straightforward. And we do use that phrase, how soon, because we want to create a bit of an urgency in doing it. Or if they've already watched the video, we really need to find out what their perception of it is. So we just ask them a very simple question. What was the best thing they could see in the video from their point of view? And the emphasis should be on their point of view. And then all we need to do, again, is listen. And usually at that point, if they've watched the video, they will say to you, it was the flexibility, the money, the fact that they were ordinary people, they weren't actors, or the fact that all the people were happy, or sometimes they say that they were pleased it was Clean Easy and a company they'd heard of and that they could trust because it's a well-established brand. So they will give you some positive feedback about what they saw in the video. Or if they haven't seen the video, we're then going to agree a time with them where they will go and look at the video, and then we will call them back. But it's going to be one of those two outcomes. So we may need to give them a little bit of information if they haven't looked at the video. And we could say something like this. We're looking for two types of people, Mary. First of all, we're looking for people who want to top up their income on a part-time basis, and most people earn £300 to £600 per month, and that's done by marketing products online through social media and by handing out home shopping catalogues in a local area. And we're also looking for more ambitious people to become team leaders and managers, and they earn a lot more money because they get paid bonuses on their team turnover. And that's really pretty much all I would ever say about the business. I wouldn't get drawn into any more detail than that. That's plenty of detail. Actually, it's probably overdoing it, if anything, because all we want to do is we want to use the tools and let the video do the explaining for us. So the whole purpose of giving them that information is to see how soon they can go and look at the video. So if you give them that outline and then you ask them, how would you feel about that? Would you like to find out more? And they say yes, you say, great, how soon can you look at the video? So we're only giving them a very, very brief outline of what the business involves. And then to close that part of the process, or to gain commitment, if they've watched the video and they've given us some positive feedback, we simply say, okay, thanks for that, Mary. Now the next step is to go through more detailed information on our online information pack over the telephone. It usually takes 20 to 30 minutes. I can't do that right now, but it will answer all the questions, any questions you have, and it will give you all the information you need. I can do it later today at 7 o'clock or 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Which would you prefer? So important point there is I never do appointments. We never teach people to do appointments there and then, because we don't want to appear over eager to sign people into the business, because then we come across a bit like a salesperson trying to sell an idea, and that's really not the most effective way. So I always make a point of telling them I can't do it now, but I have got a slot. I could fit you in at 4 o'clock this afternoon. The times will obviously vary depending on when you're speaking to them, but I just give them two alternatives. This is what we call the alternative close. Would you prefer 4 o'clock this afternoon or 10 o'clock tomorrow morning? Or if I was speaking to someone, say 10 o'clock in the morning, I might say I can fit you in at 11:30 this morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Which would you prefer? So I always give them an alternative. I try not to leave it too long, because you don't want to leave it like 24, 48 hours, because then they may go cold on the idea, or they may go and research information themselves, which is not helpful at this stage. So we want to do the appointment quite quickly, but not necessarily immediately. And that's how we close the appointment. So we agree a time to go through the appointment, or if they haven't watched the video, we agree a time to call them back. And we can ask them to email us when they've watched the video if they haven't already done so. But we close the appointment in that way. So to summarize the process, it is very simple. All you really have to do is to find out if they're really looking and why. And we do that by asking the questions about why they responded to the advert and what they're looking for. And it's a way of, all we're really doing is we're qualifying people. So we don't prejudge anybody. We'll allow anybody to join our business, really, but we need to qualify people to find out, are they really looking, or are they just, clicking on stuff on the internet because they've got nothing better to do, or are they just, looking at it in a kind of very casual way. But if they're really serious, if they're giving us specific reasons or specific things that they're trying to achieve, like they need extra income because they've lost a shift at work, or because someone's been made redundant, or whatever it may be, then we can gauge their level of seriousness. So the key point is that you must believe in what you're offering and what you're doing, and you need to speak with conviction, with authority, conviction, and enthusiasm, basically. And the way that you do that is through practice and by doing it over and over and over again. But put some passion into it and put some enthusiasm into it, because we're offering people an opportunity to change their life and improve their financial circumstances. And you should be proud of the fact that you're in the business, and always remember that the mindset that you need to adopt is that you are the managing director of your business. This is your business, and you are offering the opportunity to help other people improve their circumstances. So that's a thing to be proud about, I think. and you must also believe in yourself. And you have to have a sense of your own goals and where you're going with the business. So we never get worried about which ones want to join and which ones don't want to join, because it's not a convincing process. It's a sorting process. And all you have to do is decide where you want to go and then step up. But that's basically step 5, which is the telephone process. And the key skill is just listening to what people are looking for. And if you help people achieve what they're looking for, you can make a fortune. Anyway, with that, I will close off this training at that point. And I'll just close the screen share. And just to finish, the key point to remember is, like I said earlier, it's like learning to drive a car. Initially, when you start, I recommend that you start on Skype by watching your sponsor go through that process and phone some leads, get them to phone some of your inquiries so that you can watch them do it and you can follow what they're doing with the script and the workbook. Listen to this disc or this recorded video, and then just make a start. And don't worry about making mistakes, because you cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. And all you're doing really is finding out who's going to do it and who's not going to do it, who's going to come with you on your journey to success and who's not. And but be very relaxed about it. Try and have some fun. It's good fun. All you're doing is talking to people, having a good conversation. And with that, I'll ask you to step up and watch out for the next video, which is step 6 by Kevin Ryder.